A warm welcome to a new episode of Leaders of Tomorrow Season 10. I'm Ritwika Gupta. Now, Metaverse has opened a whole new spectrum of opportunities for innovators, investors, and entrepreneurs like never before. Globally, companies like Facebook, Epic Games, and others are already investing heavily in creating a metaverse, which for the longest time was found only in sci-fi novels or movies. In India, several startups are mushrooming in the space with innovative ways to create interactive and immersive experiences for consumers. Today, we'll be speaking to two such startups, Ikonz and OneRare. Founded in August 2021, Ikonz is a wealth-building platform that aims to help IP owners, artists, and other established icons manage their digital assets. It is backed by Rana Daggubati and Prasad Vanga. To kickstart the episode, I'll be first chatting with the founder and CEO, Abinav Varma. Thank you, Abinav, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Ritwika.
So, I want to begin this interview by first asking you to tell our viewers what Ikonz is, what is it all about, the idea behind it, and what the platform offers.
Awesome, thank you. So we started Ikonz about a year ago with the concept of bringing iconic IP, that's intellectual property, to the metaverse through NFTs. So as you've known, like NFTs were a $41 billion market last year, and we were kind of early movers in the market, and Ikonz was situated to help other IP holders navigate this landscape because it's so confusing. Because cryptocurrency came by, then NFTs came by, then the metaverse came by. In 1 year, we saw so much of advancements in different technologies that many people got confused. So Ikonz comes in at a layer where we help IP holders. It could be in different industries, doesn't necessarily have to be in comics, films, but we also work with fashion, architecture, different industries that we help navigate the whole landscape from a monetization standpoint, from a scaling standpoint, and from a legal standpoint, because there's a lot of legal barriers for entry as well. So that's kind of what caused us for the genesis of Ikonz, and I moved back from America to start this because I thought India would be the next growth frontier for us, and I thought this would be a good place to start.
So we'll get to your iconic IPs in a bit. I want to talk about that. But before that, tell me how different or how similar is it to do business in the metaverse as compared to in the real world? What are the opportunities, the risks?
Absolutely. So psychologically, it's the same if you think about it, right? Consumer behaviors that we're seeing in the real world today, that, okay, when an event happens, we're congregating in a certain place. So we're meeting new kind of people there. So we're experiencing something visually in the real world. So Metaverse also gives us a platform in the virtual world where people can congregate around a certain event, cause, things they care about. So it's kind of, just think about how websites were in the early 2000s. How every single website were formed www. Similarly, think of metaverses as online virtual spaces like websites, right? In 5 to 10 years down the line, how every single business had a website, it'll be more 3D, it'll be more immersive. Let's say you and me today are doing the interview here. We would potentially be doing it in the ET Now Leaders of Tomorrow metaverse maybe in the future, both of us sitting here. And so you'll have your own avatar, I'll have my own avatar, and we're actually interacting. It's much more immersive. So that's kind of where it's more immersive than today's world of more 2D. Metaverses will be online virtual spaces where people can socialize, hang out, and also interact in new ways. So what that means for businesses, they'll have to think about how media strategy was in the last 10 years, how social media came up and they had to adapt to social media.
Right.
Similarly, they'll have to adapt to metaverses because it's a new form of storytelling, to be honest. It's much more immersive, but that offers a lot of new opportunities as well, right? For brand interactions, for people. So let's say a traditional real estate firm can do something very cool in the metaverse to feel much more relevant with the newer audience, because metaverse audience today, if you think about the earliest metaverses that are there as of today, are gaming companies, right?
Yeah.
Like the Fortnites of the world, where there's hundreds of millions of people congregating there, playing games, wearing virtual fashion. So that's where another big industry comes in for the metaverse. So people like to represent well, right? We want to dress well, we want to drive good cars, we want to stay in good places. So similar psychological patterns and behaviors will be adapted in the metaverse, where avatars, as people, we would like to stand out. So we will buy those virtual goods and virtual fashion From designers, it could be, or even a 10-year-old could become the next biggest fashion designer in the metaverse, because it's all about creativity there. So that's it. That itself is like a $130 billion industry today, without the metaverse itself in gaming. So that's going to grow exponentially when more and more virtual spaces start to form. So that's one big avenue for business as well, virtual fashion. Like all big consumer brands towards D2C that can do a lot of fashion things, they'll have to adapt to that. Like already Gucci and all these brands have already adapted, the luxury ones. Many more brands will adapt as well. So architecture has a big scope in the metaverse as well, because just like how, as I said, like similar behaviors, cars, like watches, like clothes, houses. So good architects, like I think last year, I mean, it was all the hype cycle, but like about $500,000 worth of house was sold as an NFT. So all of these assets in the metaverse today, how in the physical world, we are having these assets through land deeds, like lands or like cars or like other items we buy. Every time we buy something, we get a receipt.
Right.
So similarly in the metaverse, we'll have an NFT that will enable digital ownership. That's as simple as that. NFTs are not more than, they're not fancy, they're not very complex. They're simply a digital ownership, proof of ownership. So all of these asset classes that are being formed, like digital fashion, digital houses, like digital real estate, like all these segments will have a big place in the metaverse. And these will be like, proof of ownership will be through NFTs that different platforms will be able to bring forward. Yeah.
And that's when you come in to actually take care of these digital, assets, right?
Absolutely. That's where we step in, because it's a new frontier, again, as I said, like, and it's a global frontier. It's not siloed to India.
Yeah.
So we want to take Indian IP global, like it could be through. So right now we have a few cool partners that we want to take global.
Yeah.
And we represent different industries because we want to navigate them to the not only the monetization, but also the right approach, right? I think moving on from metaverse is more of a Web3 concept. I don't want to become too technical, but Web3 is simply more decentralized ownership, I could say, where Web2 was more centralized ownership, where users didn't hold their data. The platforms held their data. They used to use those data to monetize it. But Web3's whole concept is like bringing more, empowering more users or like consumers, so they can have ownership of their data, they can have ownership of what they own. That way they can get better services on different platforms. So Metaverse is a Web3 concept and it's evolving. And we want to make sure that brands think through that framework compared to like the framework they've been thinking through in the last 10 to 15 years or 20 years of Web2. So Web3 gives them a new opportunity to engage with their consumers directly without any middleman, but also, the thought process, the legal aspects of it, and how to engage, when to do what. So we come in there and help them navigate the whole landscape.
Right. Coming back to Ikonz, you have a variety of iconic IPs, from Amar Chitra Katha to Tinkle. So tell me what else is on the cards, and really what are you expecting from these, and who are you targeting?
Great question. So we have Amar Chitra Katha and Tinkle as we've announced, but we also have about 200 movies in our catalog that we haven't announced. Some of these are the largest, grossing movies in India in the last 20 years, and so we'll be announcing them pretty soon. So we represent film, we represent comics, and also comics in Tinkle, Amar Chitra Katha, and few more catalog of IPs that we've able to we are blessed to work with them. Like these are legacy brands that have been there for the last 60, 70 years. So very excited about those, but also we'll be representing fashion very soon. We'll make announcements by the end of this year, the world of fashion and art. So we're entering them in a big way. So we'll make some cool announcements by the end of this year in those segments.
All right. Speaking about NFTs again, from your big celebrities to your top brands, all of them are creating their own NFTs. Speaking about the Indian market, do you think Indians understand NFTs? Do you think there's a growing interest by NFTs in India?
Absolutely. I think, firstly, the concept of digital ownership has to be kind of imbibed in Indians. But last year, a lot of people got excited, right? Like when crypto and everything came into the landscape, people got excited. A lot of people joined online platforms to own digital assets. So that's kind of the first move towards owning digital assets. So there's already a growing interest in that. So definitely there's a growing interest in NFTs as a market, but there's also definitely a need for more education as this comes, because these are risky asset classes, and people need to be really well informed and also educated on what they're buying into. And that's kind of where we also will put out a lot of educational content and educate the consumers on what do you need to think through when buying such digital assets such as NFTs or engaging in the metaverse or whatnot. So yeah.
But at the moment, do you think it's more of a collector's market?
It was a collector's market last year because everything was very inflated. I think big ticket sales happening in art in different segments. But right now moving more towards a utility-driven NFT market. So that will bring in more consumers. See, India has a huge gaming market, right? Like India has like hundreds of millions of people that play games. And if you see the gaming trends as well, there's a lot of in-app ownership that's happening in the last couple of years. So there's already a trend towards owning digital assets.
Right.
That's only going to accelerate as more and more experiences. Let's say we bring in like a whole new experience with Amar Chitrakat, or a whole new experience with Tinkle, with all the characters. You can own a couple of characters. You can own Supand, you can own Shambhu, and if you own them as an NFT, you get to have these experiences in the metaverse. So the games, like just engaging experiences that if people can build, you'll be able to bring in audiences that will use it as a utility, like as a dress, or as something else that would empower them to do something in the virtual world. But also today, I think there's a lot of physical utility also that needs to be brought into the market so that people can understand and feel it, because metaverse seems like a concept that is too far away for a lot of people. Like I think once they experience it, once they are able to engage with it, I think more and more people will enter the market.
Tell me, are there any trends that you're excited about in this segment, like in the coming years or in the coming year for that matter?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of to-earn mechanisms that were like seen in the last 12 months. So there'll be a couple of more to-earn mechanisms that I'm excited about. Like there was play to earn. There was like that was the biggest concept with all these games, like these metaverses. So there's newer earn mechanisms that are coming. I think a lot of e-commerce will also start to migrate into the metaverse. So I'm excited about that. And also excited mainly about the hardware to catch up. Like I don't know if you've experienced the Oculus or like you've experienced other headsets. They're becoming very cool, and I'm also excited to see the Apple's AR glasses. So that will be the next transition, I guess, because I think metaverse is a leap, but I think in physical spaces we can have an avatar of someone that we have here or someone else. So that'll be the next gradual transition, and I think AR glasses will be the next transition into that. So you'll see a lot of developments in that side that I'm very excited about.
Well, that was really insightful. Thank you, Abinav.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
It's time now for a short break. On the other side, we'll be taking a look at the world's first food metaverse. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Leaders of Tomorrow Season 10. Now, for the first time, food brands, chefs and restaurants have their very own foodverse. OneRare is the brainchild of Supreet Raju and Ritwika Gupta, aimed at bringing the global F&B industry to Web3 in a gamified manner. To find out what all went into building the world's first food metaverse, I'll now be chatting with Supreet Raju, co-founder OneRare. Hi Supreet, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to begin this interview by asking you to tell us what is the idea behind OneRare? What went into building the world's first food metaverse, or foodverse as you would like to call it?
Thank you so much for having me, Ritwika. OneRare is the world's first food metaverse, which we lovingly call the foodverse. And the idea is to bring the global food and beverage industry to Web3. Over the course of the pandemic, the industry, of course, went through a very difficult period in terms of figuring out how to monetize beyond local means. And with the foodverse, we're opening up this new technology of blockchain, NFTs, metaverse, allowing brands, chefs, and restaurants to interact with the consumer. Alongside, I think food is also a very interesting topic for general audiences and for community to relate to, which makes it a very interesting bridge when you're trying to learn something new. So at OneRare, the aim is to actually get the consumer to blockchain, as well as allow the food industry to find new consumers, new users, and expand their horizons in this metaverse.
Now, from what I understand, this is an entirely different universe, especially the gaming part to your foodverse, food truck wars, trade at market. If you could take us through that entire, spectrum of things and tell us what can a user expect when they sign up, what are the challenges and what are the rewards?
So the first launch we've had is the gaming zone where a user can come in and interact through different areas. The reason for that is because right now with the blockchain industry, we are seeing the largest audience to be gamers. And secondly, we think food is a beautiful medium to actually get people to understand the basic of blockchain. So in our particular gaming zone, we have four areas. We have the farm, farmers market, kitchen, and playground. And through each one of these areas, the user can kind of engage with our NFTs, with other gamers, and come up with a dish which they can use to play more games like Food Truck Wars. So the idea is for people to come into our farm, stake the OneRare token, win rewards of ingredients and other NFTs through that, which they can take to the kitchen to cook up their dish. And then, of course, battle it in food trucks against other players to either earn more ingredients or token. So it's an ecosystem that allows people to engage with food as well as blockchain.
Supreet, I read that you are a graduate of NIFT. One would think you do something in the fashion space, but clearly your love for food surpasses this. Tell me, did the idea of OneRare stem from that?
So actually, yes, I am a textile graduate from NIFT Delhi. And I think the good part about going to a design college is that it rounds you up for creative thought anywhere you go. My husband, who's also my co-founder, Gaurav, was actually in the blockchain industry before me. He's an engineer and brings the tech vision to OneRare. And I think being with him, I started learning more about the technology. And of course, once NFTs came in, I felt that the industry had kind of pivoted to a more creative look and outlook. And I think that's where I came in. Best, we are huge foodies, so that definitely helped. But I think with regards to fashion, it'll be something that might take a little bit longer because our focus is on food at the moment, though there are a lot of interesting projects that are exploring fashion as well right now.
So you've collaborated with celebrity chefs globally. Was it to reach out to a larger audience worldwide? Tell us more about these partnerships and how has this added value?
Our collaborations are with the leading players of the industry, whether they are in India, US, Australia. And the core idea is that today a chef, as famous as they can be, they can only monetize their local audiences, people who are coming into their restaurant or people who are buying their cookbook. With the food wars, we want them to expand to global audiences, wherein a chef being in India can actually set up a membership club or sell their recipes as NFTs to audiences across the world. They can actually sell table reservations and kind of open up that avenue where, let's say, a chef from Dubai can actually come to India for a pop up restaurant, or a particular American chain can issue their franchisees as NFTs. So there's a lot of scope there. And with each of our partnerships, we're learning a bit more about what the food industry needs. And it's going to be quite an interesting ride for us.
And when we speak of opportunities, what are the opportunities here for food brands? How can they create brand experiences?
So with regards to food and food brands, of course, FMCG has seen tremendous growth over the past 10 years. The market is rapidly expanding and they want to reach the consumer in new ways. For the next 2 years, we look at the metaverse or our foodverse in general as the transition from social media being 2D, going towards a 3D, more immersive experience. So when it's a food brand that is, let's say, talking about home appliance, or let's say it's talking about even, a raw ingredient like Urban Platter, that is one of our partners. They can actually use their ingredients to tell people how to use them in their dishes, how to bring them into their kitchens, create a more immersive experience where a user can actually understand the product rather than having to order it without knowing what it's about, or having to, reach a store and not understand the use case of it. So I think with food brands, it would be a great opportunity for them to expand, not just at a national level, but also an international level.
I also want to talk about your funding journey a little bit. Tell me, how easy or difficult was it for a startup in the metaverse to secure funding? What was the journey like?
We did do our fundraise in the bull market. I can't deny that. We were raising at a time when the market was much more favorable. So it definitely matters at what time you raise. We did our fundraise last year between September to November, and we raised about $2.3 million. And to be honest, I think when people kind of see the big vision you present, it does become easier. A lot of people that invest and believe in you are more than happy to connect you to more people. So it kind of acts like a chain, I feel. But yes, to crack your first investor, it's very important that you explain your vision in a way that the other person also believes in it and in the long-term potential of your project. So I think for regards to any other fundraise, ours was similar to that, wherein it was the first investment that really set the ball rolling. And I think for anybody who is trying to, get an investment now when the markets have turned a little bit, they should focus more on the quality of their product, on the build, rather than on the marketing and the hoopla around it, because the investors right now are looking at the build much more seriously.
Finally, tell me, what advice would you have for companies who are looking to set up shops in the metaverse? What are some do's and don'ts?
I think a lot of people are already doing the metaverse. I'm sure my advice will work for very few who are left. But yeah, I think in general, when it comes to the metaverse, people should be focused on the experience they're offering. They can choose a particular theme like us, which is food specific. They can build a general metaverse, but it should be a metaverse with a purpose. There should be a reason for enough people in the community to be engaging with it or to expect a certain amount of audience. We're talking about metaverse in a very early stage right now, but nobody really wants to enter a virtual world and see just three other people running around, not having an idea about what they're doing. So with every metaverse that is being built, there needs to be a purpose, there needs to be a reason for the community to turn up. And there needs to be an engagement that you have created which makes people enjoy their time there. So for anybody building, they should know why they're building, rather than just the fact that the word metaverse is trending right now.
Well, thank you, Supreet. It was lovely chatting with you.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's now time to take a quick look at our CXO diary, where I asked Abinav and Supreet some quick-fire questions.
Yeah, socializing and traveling.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Leaders of Tomorrow Season 10. We hope you enjoyed the conversations. I'm Ritwika Gupta signing off. Good night.